How did Pablo change your life?
You know what's crazy, man? If I'm being honest with the whole Pablo shit, so there was two ways to look at this.
Okay.
And I feel like one, the biggest way it changed my life, I think it was a wake-up call. Pablo really forced me to get on my business shit.
Mm,
Because that was the first time like I understood just because you're a part of a big record doesn't mean you're automatically gonna get the publishing you deserve. And you really do get what you negotiate. You know what I mean?
right.
Like it's so cliche, but I think that was the first time I had like my first big boy industry lesson. Like, ooh, okay. I contributed a little bit more to this, and this is what I walk away with.
Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Once again, it is your man B Vaughn here with the Indie Unplugged. Welcome to another interview segment. And today I have an amazing guest. Let me take a moment to introduce our guest to you. So today we have Darius 3D Jenkins. He is a distinguished music producer engineer hailing from Jacksonville, Florida. After making his mark in the Atlanta music scene, he's worked with some of the industry biggest names, including Kanye West, The Weeknd, 2 Chainz, Lil Wayne, Missy Elliott, CyHi the Prince, which we're going to talk about because that's one of my favorite albums. We'll get to that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about that. His work on Kanye's West multi-platinum album, The Life of Pablo, earned him a Grammy nomination in 2016, solidifying his reputation as an exceptional talent. Beyond his individual accomplishments, 3D is also one half of the production duo Kreative Villains and a co-owner of Kreative Corner Studios, a creative hub for artists and producers to collaborate and thrive. With years of experience, 3D continues to push boundaries in audio production, influencing the landscape and soundscape of modern music. So, ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to Darius 3D Jenkins.
Yo, appreciate the love. It's been a long time coming, man.
Man, for sure.
It's been a long time coming. Like we was just talking about, the pandemic kind of threw us off a little bit.
did.
We were supposed to been had did this.
For sure, right. That pandemic closed off everything.
It really did. But the crazy thing is, like, the studio scene, like the music scene in Atlanta didn't really die down because, you know, we were still semi-open. So when a lot of people started seeing that, they started migrating to Atlanta on the low.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, it's good to finally, you know, get it in, get the sit down done.
That's right. That's right.
Pull up on the pod.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like it's been a minute. I think the last time we saw each other was at the Grammy party that was in January.
Oh yeah, the nomination party.
Yeah, the nomination party.
Yeah, that was dope too.
That was dope.
Shout out to the Recording Academy.
Yeah,
they did that.
Sure. Killer Mike did his thing. Money Long did her thing, but that Killer Mike joint was.
Yeah, that was fire. That was fire.
That was fire though. But it was good to I like events like that. And I think when COVID hit, it kind of took some of those, right? You just mentioned the studio environment still being open, but the event environment kind of.
Yeah, it was dead for sure.
It died down. And I kind of missed going to those events. And you know what's the crazy part is that I'm an extrovert and I'm a huge extrovert. Yeah. So I like going places. But because of COVID and having to stay in the house, it did something.
I think it did something to a lot of people. I think it did something to a lot of people because I'm the same way. Like in our dynamic, I'm kind of like the extrovert. You know what I mean? So when it comes to like getting outside networking, I kind of take the responsibility on that. But I think I got so comfortable during the pandemic, just kind of like working from my own little station. You know what I mean? Like working from my own little studio, not really having to go out and reach out to other people and network as much that when everything opened back up, it just didn't really feel like as natural for me. Like I really had to like push myself like, okay, let's try to do 2 events a week. You know what I mean? Like make sure you're leaving with 2 contacts. Like really had to go back to the basics.
Yeah. Because I try to go to events now and I look at them and go, yo, I want to go to that. That looks dope. But when it's
the
time
day of?
But the day of is like,
Do I really want to go?
Right.
It's about 30 minutes
Like,
away. Yeah,
30 minutes
like
away. Do I really want to go? Like, man, my wife would be like, "You going?" I'm like,
I
"I
just
don't
did that
know."
with an event last night. I was in the studio. The event ended about 11. My session was wrapping at like 10:15-ish. I'm like, nah, I'm
Nah,
good.
I'm good.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, but the day before that, if you would have asked me, I was gun
I
ho
was
about it. Like,
good. I
yeah,
was
I'm
like,
locked
yeah, I'm
in.
about to go. I'm about to be. I got everything ready. But the day is like,
The day of, it'd be tough,
I'm
bro.
good. I'm good. But man, welcome to the Indie Unplugged, brother.
Nah, I appreciate you having me.
For sure, man. Let's dive into the first question I always ask everybody. I'm always interested in people's journey. Like, how did they get started? What were some of the things that they experienced that ended up to where they are today? So you can kind of just give us some history about what that is.
Man, I don't even really know where to start. I guess if we take it back like from the beginning, I started out interning at Hot Beats. I had graduated from Full Sail probably like way back in 2009. And when I got my internship at Hot Beats, man, that was really like my entry into the game. You know what I mean? Like I was interning, but it was a lot of dope shit that was going on, and it was kind of like my first peek behind the curtain, you know, because up until that point I was in school, I'm working with my friends, but I had never been around like major label sessions, major label artists. So that was really my first time to actually like get in the room and just see like the difference between a producer and a beat maker, see what a songwriter really do. You know what I mean? Just see everybody's role. And it was crazy because as much as I loved that opportunity, it was short lived, man. I had to go back to Jacksonville maybe like a week or two after getting that. Yeah, because around that time, I think I interned at Hot Beats and Patchwork for like a short stint. And you know how it goes, man. Just came up here, ran out of money, like couldn't really get a solid job. So I'm interning, just trying to like scrape up money off my beats and stuff. But that wasn't really working at the time.
Right.
So ran out of cash, decided to go back to Jacksonville. And around 2012, I came back. When I came back this time, I was way more focused and I kind of like really had a game plan. You know what I mean? So when I came back, I ended up getting an internship at Tree Sound this time.
Okay.
And when I got on that Tree, that was pretty much like the turning point. Like I would say at that point, that's when I was really thrown in the fire. Cause even at those previous internships, I was really just like assisting and doing intern work. Tree Sound was the first spot where it was like, oh, you say you do this? Well, get in a session. You know what I mean?
Right.
So immediately I'm like working with, you know, major artists and just really controlling the ship to the point where I really started getting cool with a lot of these artists and they would try to see like, what are you doing outside of engineering? You know what I mean? So that was kind of how I started like making relationships and just able to get my beats to indie artists before any of the majors. Cause for me, that was like the most important thing. Like that helped me build my confidence. Just knowing like, okay, somebody thinks my beats are dope enough. You know what I'm saying? That they want to record on them. And, you know, after about 4 or 5 of those, just working with like different indie guys that would come through the studio, the studio started to build a little bit more confidence in me. So around that time, I was starting to work with a little bit more A-listers that would come through Tree Sound. And somewhere in the mix of that, me and CyHi started working. My boy Kurt, who was like pretty much like the top engineer at the studio at the time, he was working with him. He had ended up getting another opportunity. So when he left, CyHi was already familiar with me, but I had never worked with him before. You know what I mean? So he came in one day, Kurt wasn't available, and he was like, well, shit, I know you, bro. Like, let's just try it out. And from that, me and him ended up, I left Tree Sound shortly after that, probably like a year after working with CyHi. And once I left, he just reached out to me and he was like, yeah, bro, I'm working on the Black History Project. You know what I'm saying? Just wanted to see if you want to come on the team, be a part of that. And me and bro worked for about, I would say about 2-3 years. You know what I'm saying? I was running point on that. I really started out engineering for him. And then I think over time, we just developed more trust. And it was like, okay, well, what you think about this beat? What you think I should say right here? You know what I'm saying? How would you chop this sample? So then my role started to grow and I would, you know, not only help co-write, but also help kind of produce some of the beats. Around that time working with CyHi too, I wasn't aware how heavy in the game he was as a songwriter. You know what I mean? I'm just knowing like the stuff
Right,
I've heard up until that point. I think I heard So Appalled and like some of his stuff that he dropped.
Mhm.
I remember he had a song on 2K that was really big too. That's like where I knew the name from originally. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Now, as I'm working with him, I'm starting to realize like, oh shit, like you're writing this stuff for Ye. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think he did the Love in the Club, not Love in the Club, but Drunken Love, the remix that
Mhm.
Ye did with Beyonce.
Right.
We were like at the studio working on his shit, and like in between a break, they pulled a beat up, you know what I mean? And I'm the engineer, but I'm like outside taking a little smoke break or something, and somebody else is pulling up. I'm like, what the fuck they got going on? I come
Mhm.
back in and I peep like, oh, he writing this for Ye. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And maybe like 2 weeks later, I hear the song on the radio and it's the same verse, like, I won't say bar for bar, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, okay, I get it. I see what's going on. So around that time, that's when everything starts to kind of click for me. And I think I probably went out to LA like 2 or 3 times to just work with good music, work with Kanye. But every time I went out there, like Kanye would just be on some like real Kanye shit. Like, oh man, y'all was supposed to link, but he just went to LA for, I mean, Vegas for the Super Bowl. Like he just flew out to Paris for Fashion Week. I'm like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, all right, I guess.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So after a while, I kind of didn't even like get hype about the whole going to LA to work with Ye
Right.
thing. Like for me, it was just like, all right, whatever, bro.
Right.
We'll see. Like if it happens, it happens.
Mhm.
It just so happened like one of those times when I got called from CyHi was the whole Pablo situation. And honestly, I took it with a grain of salt until I realized like, oh, this is not a drill.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
because around that time, like I said, my role had kind of grew working with him. So even times when his road manager didn't want to go out there, if it was something light, I might just, shoot out there, do like engineering / road management.
Mm.
So at that point, that's what I'm thinking it's about when he hit me. And I get out there, I'm trying to kick it, like hit the dispensary, get some Roscoe's.
Mhm.
And he was like on me, like, bro, where you at? I need you to pull up. I need you to pull up. I'm like, all right, goddamn, like, give me a minute. You know what I mean? But I'm peeping the urgency, so I'm like, all right, it got to be something. So my
Right.
homegirl that I was out there with at the time, the one that picked me up from the airport, she was like, I gave her the address and she knew. She was like, oh, you going to Studio City. So at that point, she kind of knowing like, you know what I'm saying, it's some real shit.
Mhm.
Like wherever you going, you working with somebody that's big, big.
Mhm.
So I get over there and still I'm kind of oblivious to what's going on. And I never forget, man, I pull up to the studio and I get to the door. It's this big ass security guard. You gotta like sign the NDA or whatever. And then as soon as I get past him, I seen like the oddest combination of people. It was Tyler the Creator and ASAP and Bentley. Tyler the Creator, ASAP, and Bentley all walking out the studio. And I'm just like, okay, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? But I'm still not piecing together that
Right.
this
Right.
is like Ye's session. So slowly, I just start like navigating through the studio with CyHi, man. And when I tell you, like, it was like the who's who of the music industry. Like you walk in one room, designers working on an unreleased Panda, Rick Rubin's
Mm.
on the couch, Travis Scott got a room, 3 Stacks is in there. Like,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Just
Mhm.
everybody that you could think of, like that played music at the highest level. Eventually, Chance the Rapper, Uzi, Kurt
Mm.
Franklin, Tiana Taylor, like everybody's just in there kind of working in their own environments, but contributing to the overall
Right.
project. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was really like my first opportunity to be in a room with people on that level and actually be contributing. Like I went
Mm.
out there as an engineer, and I think the first day me and Bird had already worked together
Right.
because of the CyHi situation. And the first day we went out there, we literally just sat in the studio for like 8 hours waiting on a call or a text or just something to
Wow.
like put me in, coach. You
Right.
know what I'm
Right.
saying? Just to
Right.
like get our shot. And we went back to the room that night. I just told Bird, I'm like, bro, we can't do that again. Like we
Mm.
can never like just waste the whole day, because what was happening was they were sending over like the updated versions of the song because they're thinking CyHi's in here with us, so they want
Right.
him to hear the versions, but he's in the other studio with Ye and them. So we're just getting these emails, but we're not doing nothing with them.
Wow.
So I'm
Right.
kind of listening to the songs and I'm like, nah, bro. we can't do this again tomorrow. Like, even if, you know what I'm saying, we just go in there, mess around, and CyHi come back and he like, yo, this trash. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit in here for 8 hours and just not do nothing again.
Right.
So we came up with the genius idea. I'm like, Bird, look, let's just write to him, bro. I'll go in, like I said, let's just come up, you know what I'm saying? Fill in the blanks. Let's do our own shit. And then when bro get back in, we'll play him. Like, no harm, no foul. If he don't like it, he don't like it.
That's right.
You know what I mean? He come back in from the main room. We like, yo, I want to play you some shit. We play him like 2 or 3 of the joints we did. He like, this y'all? Nigga, this you? Y'all came up with this? Like, look, bro.
Like, yo, we ain't wasting time.
You know what I'm saying? Because I could tell he was already kind of overwhelmed, because that was another thing. When I went out there, I kind of realized like how much he contributed to that situation. So us doing that, you know what I'm saying, I'm figuring it probably helped him out. Like, all right, well, shit, they done knocked out 2 of them. So that was really me and Bird just kind of grabbing the bull by his horns. Like, all right, bro, even if he don't like it, we got to do something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we on the biggest stage possible, and we just sitting in here watching Netflix, twiddling our thumbs for 2-3 days.
Yeah, no, that's not productive. I'm not doing that.
Right. So it was crazy. Like, I knew things were moving in the right direction because I was only supposed to be out there for like a weekend. I think we ended up staying for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Yeah, man. So that was really like the origin. And I know I kind of sped through it.
Nah, that's dope.
From like beginning internship to pretty much like first major placement opportunity.
Wow. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that's in there. Man, there's a lot of stuff that's in there.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so let's go back. Full Sail. Do you think it's important that music creatives, producers, artists have some type of formal education?
Personally, I do. And I only say that because I feel like for somebody like me, like I wasn't one of those people that grew up in the choir or played in the band. Like, I played basketball my whole life. So by the time I'm 17, 18 and I'm trying to make that pivot, I'm knowing like there are fundamentals. The same way in basketball, you got to know how to, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Run a certain dribble, defense. Yeah.
You got to shoot, you know. What's so crazy in basketball, they do things to help you, you know, 3-man. I don't know if they even do 3-man weave anymore, but anyway.
Yeah, but you know, it's like your jab step or like stuff like that. Like, you have to know that to be successful. And it was the same thing with music. I knew like, okay, there are certain fundamentals that I don't know because I didn't grow up doing this. So, and then for me too, I just knew like, in order for me to get in the room coming from Jacksonville, there weren't a lot of studios. I'm like, okay, if I get this degree and it at least says that I know enough about engineering to get in the room, that'll get me a start. So just going to Full Sail, you know, I mean, my whole life I grew up working on PCs. Even just learning like the in and outs of a Mac was huge for me. You know, so I think it's all about like your level of understanding at the time. Because I was in school with people who they was like, they almost knew more than the teachers. Like, they were recording everybody in the class. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to figure out signal flow. They like, hey, meet me after class, bro. You know, we recording such and such mixtape. And I felt so behind the 8 ball, but I knew like, that's why I'm here. Like, I can't even try to compete with you, bro. You've been recording your homie since you was 12. This is like really my introduction to the whole thing. You know, so I feel like it varies, man. I couldn't tell somebody to go to Full Sail or not go to Full Sail, to go to Berkeley or not go. But I do feel like if you know that you feel like you could learn a little more, you know what I'm saying? Or there's a level of understanding that you want to reach that you might not be at, I would definitely say go to school.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that opened up more? Do you think that opened up more doors for you in the perspective of, right? But so, because when you started engineering before you started producing.
Yeah.
Right. Do you think having multiple types of skill sets is what helped you to get into the spaces that you were able to get into and to connect with the people you were able to connect with?
For sure. For sure. And I say that because, I mean, to this day, man, I can get a call for anything. Somebody can call me for writing. Somebody might call me for engineering. Somebody might call me for producing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I feel like that's kind of been the blessing my whole career. Like, regardless of what it was, I think I opened myself up to receive multiple phone calls. Like I told you, even with the CyHi situation, I was out there road managing, or at least I thought. You know what I mean? So I think And I always try to like preach to the younger producers around me, like, bro, learn how to engineer. Because even while you're waiting on that placement, man, you gotta hustle while you wait. You gotta make some
Yeah.
money like every day.
Right.
And you know, engineering was that. Like even for me, that was one thing I started realizing, you know, when I started getting paid and started doing sessions, I'm like, okay, I ain't mad at this. Because even if I get this placement, we going back and forth with the label for 2 months. It's not going to drop for 6 months. Like, you know, you might not see your upfront for 6 months, and then you already know the whole royalty thing is going to take another year. So it's like, in the meantime, I loved getting paid every day for recording. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it worked out for me.
Right. That's right. So yeah, that's what I'm always kind of curious about, is having other skills and using those skills in order to further your career, right? Because you know, you meet people that go, I'm just a producer.
Yeah.
That's all I do. I'm just an artist. That's what I do. I don't got time to learn nothing else. I'm just doing just that. But I find that the more people I talk to, the more they have additional things, that skills that they have acquired that has allowed them to enter into spaces and places that they may not have been able to enter into based upon what they thought was their main entryway, or right, their main focus. I'm an artist, that's going to get me in. I'm a producer, that's going to get me in. It's like sometimes that may not be what gets you into the door.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was interesting, right? Because you started off, and I've interviewed a whole bunch of other, I'm a producer, but I started off as a songwriter, or I'm a producer, or I started off as a singer, or I do this, or I started off as an engineer. Like, oh, and that's how I got my foot in the door.
Yeah, man, I think it's two sides to it. Like, I think, like for me, for instance, I know for me, like, I knew like, okay, that's what I want to be, but to get in the room and make the connections, this is what I have to do. And then you have other people like that opportunity might just find them. You know what I mean? But I know for me, it was more so like, let me do this first to at least get in the room and just learn how things move and watch these other producers and see how they like interact with artists. Cause that's another thing that people take for granted. Like, you can have the dopest beat in the world, but if you don't know how to talk to an artist or communicate to an artist, you're not going to be around long. You know what I mean? It's a lot of people that make dope beats, but people like being around people they like.
That's right.
You know, like if you're an asshole or you one of them people that just got a standoffish personality, you can have the hardest beats in the room, but if that artist ain't feeling you, they're going to kick you out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's facts right there.
And then I've seen somebody who might not be as talented get hella opportunities because they see like he a good person. I want to help him build. You know what I mean? He's humble, whatever. So it goes both ways, man.
Yeah, and I think in your journey, as you were explaining and talking about it, you were talking about just having that humility yourself, right? And taking on additional roles that you probably didn't. Just like, you know what? Hey, I'm gonna go out and act as a road manager for. Or, hey, I'm going to act as this and fulfill these particular roles. I mean, that's a humbling perspective to take, right? It's like, but that's not my job.
Yeah.
That's not what I do. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to produce.
But see, I think, man, honestly, and not even to get heavy, but I think that falls in the faith. Like, if you're really a faith-driven person, like, why question it? You know what I'm saying? God wouldn't put nothing before me that I'm not supposed to be doing. So, hey, maybe I didn't think I was supposed to be road management, but this might show me a different path or a different way to get money or something that I might be good at that I didn't even know I was good at. Because even doing that is really just being on top of your shit. You know what I mean? And I'm a very like responsible person. So when I was doing that for him, I'm like, man, I could really do this on the regular. Like, this might be something I look at doing when I'm, you know, a little older and I'm off the producing, or I don't want to run the label no more. I might just road manage a couple artists, you know? But just being open to that experience. Like, if you just shut it down, like, I know a lot of artists that I got a friend one time, I remember he's one of those cats that's just like super on, I'm not a producer. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I just produce. And he had an opportunity that fell through because it was just him and the artist and he didn't know how to engineer. I'm not saying you got to be like Leslie, you know what I mean? But you got to know how to press 3 and get some audio, especially if it's over your beat. Why would you not?
Facts.
You doing yourself a disservice at that point.
That's facts though. Like, and I think that's the thing. I mean, so for someone who does production, speaking of myself, I gotta think of how I want to word this. someone who does production, maybe not at the level that other people do it, maybe not at the level that you do it. I do production. I do some other things, but I think having the ability to adjust, right? Like for me, I knew this was going to be my entryway.
Yeah.
Versus that NPC over there.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that was going to be I knew this was going to be the entryway because I'm an extroverted person. I like talking to people. I think I interview pretty well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a creative guy. I'm always out and meeting people. And I was like, this is how I'm going to get into and then when I'm in there, they come in, they go, oh, is that an NPC? What you got an NPC X over there? Yeah. You make beats?
See, you know the problem, man, like, and I was talking to one of my OGs, man, he always tells us, and it's crazy because I might not let him know in a moment, but he be right as hell. Like, he be right, man. Like, I don't think sometimes we value, like, just getting that foot in the door because it's so much easier now. Like, somebody, like, we could post this interview right now, and if it go viral, everybody gonna be hitting you up. Right. You know what I mean? Where to even get in the door as a media personality, you had to work at radio and you know what I'm saying, take certain steps. It's the same way now to where people don't even value just being in the room. Like even for me in 2009, like coming from Jacksonville, Florida, and just being able to be in the room in a Lil Wayne session, a 2 Chainz session, like that was everything to me. Cause even though I wasn't touching the equipment or doing nothing, shit, I'm just seeing how this really works, you know? And from there, I could pivot. I could say, okay, I want to engineer. I want to produce. I want to write. Or shit, I don't even want to do music because I don't like what I saw. But you know what I mean? You at least got to get in the room. To make a decision and give yourself a chance, man. And I think, like I said in the beginning, I think that's something that's so, like, devalued now. Like, everybody's just like, I only want to do this. And if it ain't this way, then fuck the room. And it's like, nah, get in first.
Get in first. Get in first. I think that's crazy important, right? Because in your journey, you're talking about building relationships and networking with other people, right? And that's crazy important to be able to build those relationships and have those connections, and to foster those further along. Not just hey, we're here to do a beat and cool, you know, I'm out, but to continuously build that relationship because it leads to more and more opportunities. So let me ask you this. How did Pablo change your life?
You know what's crazy, man? If I'm being honest with the whole Pablo shit, so there was 2 ways to look at this. And I feel like one, the biggest way it changed my life, I think it was a wake-up call. Pablo really forced me to get on my business shit. Because that was the first time, like, I understood just because you're a part of a big record doesn't mean you're automatically gonna get the publishing you deserve. And you really do get what you negotiate. You know what I mean? Like, it's so cliche, but I think that was the first time I had, like, my first big boy industry lesson. Like, ooh, okay. I contributed a little bit more to this, and this is what I walk away with without getting into details. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like, all right, I see how people hit that wall and be like, man, fuck it. I don't want to play the game no more. Because that's either, like, it's that fork in the road. Like, either you going to tighten up on your business and make sure it never happens again, or you just take your ball and go home. And for me, it was like, nah, you know what I'm saying? I'm built more solid than that. I'm going to figure this out. So it really forced me to, like, get a legitimate lawyer, start figuring out more about publishing, start figuring out, like, how do I make sure that doesn't happen to me again? Like, how do I fight that? You know what I mean? And if that situation never happens again, but I think that was the biggest way it changed my life. It opened my eyes to what's really going on, because a lot of times we see, like, people posting they plaques and they credits every week, but you don't really know what's going on up under that hood. Like, you don't know your man got 0.5% on the song or just whatever. You know what I mean? It be looking good until you really investigate. And that's when you see, like, damn, it's kind of ugly. And I never wanted to, like, have that happen to me again or anybody around me for that matter.
Yeah, because the plaques look good.
You know what I'm saying?
You got the
that shit look great.
The billboard joints in the studio. You're like, yo. But you realize, man, I got 0.5 on this.
Yeah. And then I think another thing that I will say now, on the flip side of that, I think Pablo also showed me, like, the power of marketing. Because it's like, okay, even if I'm such a hustler. For me, it's like, all right, even if I ain't get the money up front, I'm a market the shit out of this. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
right.
okay, now I got to figure
That's
out
right.
how to market the fact that I worked on this album, wrote 2 songs. Like, how do I turn that into $1 for myself? So that's when me and Black like, man, let's get the studio. Everybody want to get in. Everybody want to be around it. Shit, let's build a studio and just, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like foster our own talent over here. And that just turned into like us charging hourly. Because that wasn't the goal. We just needed a space outside of like our living room. Because at that point, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Him and his girl about to move in. She like, I love y'all, but I don't love y'all that much. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all running full sessions in the living room. Like, y'all got to figure it out. So when we found that space, it was just like, all right, man, if we got these type of accolades to our name, it got to look like it. So let's figure out how to really market the shit out of that.
If we have these type of accolades to our name, we got to look like it. I like that.
Yeah, man. I think people like, you know, that fake it till you make it thing, it done got taken out of context. Like, people instantly think it's about buying fake designer, buying fake jewelry, but no. I think it's also about making sure your brand looks a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, we both knew at that point, like, this thing is starting to change. Like, now we getting real phone calls from A&Rs and real songwriters that, you know, got Billboard #1s, and it just looks a certain way when you got these people pulling up to your crib in your living room. You know what I mean? Like, even though our studio ain't the most lavish spot, it's our studio.
Right.
It's somewhere that's not my living room. It's not my crib. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No.
So
trust me. I
it's
know.
just perceived different. Like, all right, they got a little motion, or you know what I mean? It matches who they say they are. If I tell you, hey man, pull up on me, you know what I'm saying, for a session, and like, we in my mom's back room, you gonna be like, without even passing any judgment.
That's fact.
Just naturally, that's what we do on that first encounter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You either gonna be like, damn, this is nice, or yo, where he got me at?
Right.
You know, so I think that was something that, and I learned that from just coming up and seeing a lot of the guys around me. I noticed the difference. Like, a lot of the more successful producers, they were really in tune with like making sure everything checked out, from the way they would come to the studio, you know what I mean, to the way they carried themselves, to the way they handled the people around them.
That's that customer service. That's that business etiquette. Yeah, that's how you handle your.
And that's what gets lost in this, because you don't have no HR, like, you know what I'm saying, none of that. So
You
people
don't have HR, customer service. It's
so
all
people
you.
lose the customer service aspect, but that's what keep you around, man.
Yeah, the facts though. Yeah, because you know, one of these days, that's my hope and dream and desire, is that I eventually get my own space.
Yeah.
And then all of this is in that space. And then there's other things I want to do. There's other shows and other stuff.
Yeah.
That I want to be able to generate for this show in that way. But I think having your own space is critical. I'm a firm believer that you got to use what you got until those opportunities present themselves.
You really
know
do,
what I'm saying?
man.
Like, yeah, that's like, if I would have waited until I got a building, I would have never done it.
Nah. And then a lot of times, like, you taking that first step, it allows somebody else to see what you're doing and come in and help you.
Facts.
Like, somebody will see this and be like, yo, this is dope, but I got the space. What if you brought this over here and we just teamed? You know what I mean?
I like that.
And it opens up those opportunities.
Right.
But if you just like, nah, I ain't gonna do it till I get the space, probably never gonna happen.
I had somebody come over. Somebody was interviewing. They came over, and they were like, "Yeah." When I rolled up, I was like, "Yo, where am I at?" They were like, "Where am I at?" Like, "Oh, it's a house." They were like, "Oh, wait, okay." And then they said when we came, when they walked in, they were like, "Oh, okay."
See, the only reason I didn't judge it, because I done been to some songwriting camps at like people's houses, and the studio be dope as hell in the basement. So I kind of already figured, I'm like, nah, I done seen the clips. I know it's set up.
Right.
Legit. So somewhere in here, he got this shit set up. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's what they said. They were like, yo, I saw the clips, and I was like, I would have never thought it was in a room in your house. It was like,
nah, you definitely decked it.
They were like, because it was dope. They was like, it looked like you were in a studio somewhere. I was like, nah, we just in this back room.
That's what
in
I
this
thought.
back room.
Honestly, that's what I thought when I seen it.
Like, we in this back room. Like, yeah. Like,
I ain't gonna lie. I honestly thought you was in the city. I'm
see?
glad I checked this morning, because normally I'm the type, like, I'll just throw it in the GPS like 10 minutes before I gotta be there. This would have been a rude awakening. Like, damn, okay, 27 minutes away.
27 minutes. Like, yo, this dude live in the South. Dang. But no, I feel you. Like that is the ultimate goal. But I think the lesson in that is you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even if it's not having all these cameras and all this setup, it's starting somewhere. I tell people that want to do podcasting and videos, like, yo, you got a phone. Your phone does 4K. Use your phone. Set that mug up. Get a nice little position in your space, your living room, bedroom, wherever it may be. Make it kind of look, get some fake plants and kind of set it up to look sort of nice and just go from there.
Just go. Because, I mean, we're in a different time, bro. Like, honestly, you know, we could be doing all this and it could be a kid that did exactly what you said in his video does 100,000 views.
And there is, oh God,
you know what I mean? So it's just like,
there be. Oh my
God, you gotta
gosh.
give yourself a shot. But trust me, I feel it. Because that's how I feel about beats sometimes. Like,
right.
we be in here really crafting and then you got a kid just messing around and that video will get 300,000.
I'm like, how? How? Like it's so crazy. Like the most viewed video on the internet is some chick bouncing her head, listening to some music, and then making a funny face at the end. And that the most viewed video on the internet, bro. This woman is now, when she made that video, she had $700. Now she got $70 million.
That's crazy.
Just from that one, just because that video is what took her off.
And that's the thing about and that's the thing about it. You can't really
virality.
You can't, like, even with us, me and Black have been diving into content more. And I promise you, like,
okay, hold up, wait. I'll let you. Some content things y'all be doing be hella, they be hella funny though.
Appreciate
they be
that,
hella
bro.
funny. They be hella funny though. I was like, I was watching the one because I wanted to go back and kind of look at some stuff. And so I was looking at the one with the intern. The intern,
oh, yeah, when he touched the button.
He was like, y'all were like, bruh, don't touch, bro, hold up. He was like, he put the tape on his mouth.
Yeah.
I was like, ha ha.
Man, and it'd be so crazy because even though it'd be a little exaggerated with like the tape, stuff like that really happens. You know what I'm saying? Like we really done had like an intern in there and he'll be so in the mood, like, or so, caught up in the vibe, he'll just like forget, like you're interning, touch the button, like, hey, what if she said, whole room just looked like, hey, bro, chill. You know what I mean? So yeah, chill, man. But even with us doing that, it was like, all right, we just got to start. You know what I mean? Like we can't keep waiting. We can't keep putting it off, man. Let's just start. And it's crazy because like going back to what we were talking about, I feel like sometimes the pieces of content that we plan the most might do like a decent amount of views. And then the stuff that's just like sitting your phone right in front of you saying something to go crazy. So you can never really gauge it.
You can never really. Virality is a crazy thing.
Virality,
bro.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing because you never know what's going to go viral. You just have no clue.
It's almost like playing the slots. Like you just got to keep giving yourself more opportunities. That's what we realized. Like, all right, the more we post, the more opportunities we're giving ourselves to go viral.
That's right.
Because if you just putting all your eggs in this one video, it's probably not going to do what you think it is, honestly. Right.
That's right. So, okay, so Kreative Villains. How'd you come up with the name?
Honestly, me and one of my friends in Jacksonville were trying to start a t-shirt line. And because we're from Jacksonville, that's where we got the whole Villains thing. So we kind of played off of that. And the creative just came. We just kind of threw that on there just to make it cool. You know what I mean? And the t-shirt thing fell apart. Me and Black probably met like 2 or 3 years after that. We already had the logo drawn up, the circle with the panda. Oh no. Let me take that back. We had the name, but we didn't have the logo.
Okay.
So at that point, I told him like I had a cool idea, but if we're gonna do it, we really need to stamp it. So he liked the name. We got with this graphic designer, went through some trial and error. We finally got it right with the whole panda thing, which was super random, but it just looked dope. You know what I mean? So when she came back with that, it was like, damn, I like this. Something about it like gives Bad Boy No Diddy, like that old Bad Boy logo with the baby in it. But then it also gave mascot with the panda. Like you could put this on the side of a helmet or something, like the Bears logo. You know what I mean? So it was just solid, man. And then we trademarked it and ran with it from there. So yeah, it is trademarked.
Right. Was it trademark? Matter of fact, I need to give it to wife right after this.
Yeah,
I got some stuff to trademark too.
Yeah, take care of that.
Yeah. Man. But that's the business side, right? It's making sure you handle the business side so that nothing comes up that can impede your ability to move forward with your brand.
See, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, man. Like the Pablo, like, and just all the business that was going on around that time, it forced me to really like tap in and make sure like, okay, things are trademarked and just little stuff like that you don't think about as a producer, because all you want to do is make beats. You know, like
I just want to make beats,
yeah,
bro.
you just want to wake up and make beats.
But I don't have no PRO, I nothing copywritten. I don't have nothing, no publishing set
No
up.
publishing, no nothing, man.
I don't know anything about splits, anything about the music business, nothing.
It's almost like, and this is the way it was explained to me, like making sure you have all these things set up. It's almost like starting a job and you don't set up your direct deposit. You can't get mad at them if they don't pay you. They don't know where to send you
That's
check.
right.
You know? So it's the same thing when you're an artist and you ain't got your PRO set up or all the things you just named. Like, you can't get mad at somebody if they take advantage. You know what I mean? I think the only thing that sucks about music is, I mean, now there's probably more tools available. But in the past, like, you kind of had to get screwed to learn almost. Right. Like, that was your admission.
That was your,
you know what I mean? Like, that's your admission fee. Like,
let me get screwed to learn how to do. I mean, there has to be some type of learning process.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes the learning process comes through getting screwed over.
Yeah, it really does, man. That goes back to what we were saying earlier, though. I think that's that fork in the road for all creatives, man. We all done been there, whether somebody told you they was going to pay you a certain amount for a beat and they didn't, or just whatever, whether it was publishing. We've all been there to the point where you probably just wanted to walk away and say F it.
Right.
But I think that's the moment where you got to like either decide I'm going to give up or I'm going to educate myself and make sure this never happens again.
That's educate yourself, ladies and gentlemen.
Educate yourself.
Educate yourself. Jaguars fan?
Yeah. So it's complicated. I'm a Cowboy / Jaguar. You know, the Jags didn't come out to like 95.
Right.
So like all the men in my family were already Cowboy fans.
Oh, yeah.
But with me being from Jacksonville, I got to rep the home team.
You know David Gerard?
Yeah, backup quarterback?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Cousin.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, Gerard was all right.
Yeah, he was all right.
He was all right. He had that.
I got a jersey upstairs.
Didn't he start for like 1 or 2 years?
Yeah.
We went to the playoffs one of them years. I remember that.
Yep. Yeah, I got his jersey up. So my mom ended up going to one of the, because David is my mom's first cousin.
Okay.
So he and I are second cousins. Of course, that was right. But I've never met him, but everybody else met him.
Yeah.
And so he ended up giving my mom one of his jerseys, and then she ended up giving it to me.
That's dope.
But I found out what I found out. So I had one of my uncles called me. He was like, "Yo, you got that? You got David's jersey?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "I need that." I'm like, "Why?" He was like, "That's my jersey." I was like, "Nah, fam. Like, mom's gave me that, bro." He was like, "Yeah." He said, "But I let him." He said, because his sister, it was like, she wanted to borrow it and she never gave it back.
So that's how you got it.
Like, she never gave it back. I was like, "Yo, Miles, get that to me, bro." Like, I don't know.
You got to take that up with Mom.
I think you got to take it up. Well, I mean, she's gone now. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, hey, bro, like, mom's gave me that. Yeah. I don't think you're gonna get that back, bro.
Nah,
like,
that's crazy, man.
Yeah,
I remember David Garrard because I remember he backed up Leftwich for me.
Yep.
Yeah,
Brian
man. And
Leftwich.
they was like the only team in the league with like 3 black quarterbacks.
3 black, that's right. Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely remember D. Garrard, man.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering because like Jacksonville, I wonder if he's a Jaguars.
Oh yeah, I'm tapped in, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I go back to like Freddie T, Mark Brunell, Steve Berline, Jags.
Yeah. So let's dive into, I think probably is one of the most dopest albums, probably one of the most underrated albums. Is underrated? Probably. You had to clarify. But so dope though. No Dope on Sundays.
No Dope. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that album's
what y'all
incredible.
do with that?
That album's incredible, man. It's wild because I feel like that was kind of the culmination of a few different projects that got scrapped, and then you kind of have like the best records from those projects with the new stuff that came from No Dope on Sundays. You know what I mean? Because around that time, I would say maybe towards the middle of that process, I took another job and I was no longer working with CyHi.
Oh.
So when I heard it, a lot of the stuff, you know what I'm saying, that it was kind of surprising to me because I heard some new stuff, but then I also heard stuff that, had been around from those other projects.
All right.
And it was kind of like, man, they just made like Megatron. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you just had 4 projects sitting around and you like, all right, we're going to take these best 3, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you just like put all that on one album. I feel like it still doesn't necessarily get the just do it deserves, but I feel like people that really rock with it. And I think overall that's kind of like CyHi's following in a nutshell. You know what I mean? Like, for most people, they might not know him because he's not super mainstream, but I think the people that do, like, they really fuck with his music and his movement. You know what I mean?
Man, I'm gonna tell you, I was in, what store was I in? Not Ross. No, I was in some store. Damn, I'm trying to think of the name of the store. I hate when I can't think of what the names of stuff are. I was in a store.
Yeah.
And the sample to No Dope on Sunday came on. And all of a sudden I'm in the store, I'm like, yo, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's the sample. So I'm running to my wife. I was like, yo, babe, look, that's the sample to No Dope on Sunday. I'm like, you hear that? Look, listen to this. And she's like,
okay, and
what? Okay,
straight up.
What? Like, I'm like, yo, that's but listen though, like, she's
but
like,
see, only true music heads know that feeling when like you hear a sample and you feel like you cracked the code.
Yeah. Y'all did y'all thing on that album.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Man. I mean, so talk about that. What was that process like of going through and creating No Dope on Sunday? Just the overall process of working with CyHi and Mark Bird, of course. Because I actually think Mark produced the song that is probably my favorite on the entire, which is No Dope on Sunday. Which is just that sample.
Yeah.
Is, and then the way that the choir, the choir, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
and then at the end,
crazy.
they had the piano joint. I mean, I think like 2-3 people did, I think Mark did like the first part, and then I think somebody else did the piano piece.
Yeah, Black did the piano piece.
Yeah, man, I'm like, yo, y'all don't understand.
Man.
Y'all don't understand, ladies and gentlemen, y'all don't understand the dopeness that lives in that album.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the whole process, like, it's just a really organic process. I think that was really one of the first times, I ever just had the opportunity to go to the studio and just create like every day. Like most artists, they put a lot of pressure on it because they don't really have the luxury to just go in and freely create. And like when you're approaching the studio like a job, like, okay, we're gonna get down here from 1 to 9 every day or 8 to 5, you know what I mean? 9 to 5. It really does kind of change the way you create because now you're doing it whether you want to do it or not. So even with like, some of the songs that are coming out, you're knowing like every song might not be a hit, but at least you're making something every day. So just kind of seeing that process, you see how like a rough idea from 6 months ago becomes a song. You know what I mean? Or how some of the records that you might have really liked 6 months ago didn't really stand the test of time. So just that whole process, man, I think of being able to really like kind of create, like I said, freely without, because I mean, obviously when you're working on an album, like the expectation of where you want it to go, what you may want it to do commercially. But I think when you get to a point as a creative where you're not really too attached to what's dope and what's not, you're just creating, I think that's the way you get something like that. Because now you got your producers in there just, trying a little bit more, being a little bit more experimental with the samples they might be chopping or the sounds they might be using. And, that's one thing that I peeped from the whole Ye process. Like, sometimes you got to go all the way left to come back center. You know what I mean? Like sometimes like somebody got to come in with the most abstract drum pattern for somebody to tell him, hey, I like that, but maybe the snare should fall at a different spot. You know what I mean? Maybe you should make that more digestible for the masses. Like, I see what you're doing, but let's bring it back a little bit to where we can meet them in the center, And I think when you get to that point, that's when you start getting dope projects like that. And I mean, obviously, CyHi is a Ye understudy, so that's where that comes from.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, ladies and y'all don't know, just go listen to No Dope on Sunday.
Thank you, bro.
That album is, I think y'all produced 6 or 7 joints on that entire project.
And then it's crazy, man, because that was to go back. That was one thing that I did learn just, during that time. And again, like I said, CyHi's a Ye understudy, so he's learning a lot of this stuff from Ye. But a lot of those songs are conversations. Like, get your money. You know what I mean? That's literally like us having a conversation in the car, just talking about different things that niggas done had to do to get some money, and then him kind of telling me how like the OGs laid the game out or whatever the case is. And then that conversation in turn goes into him kind of like, all right, well, what if we made this like one of the OGs really talking like to the younger generation about get your money and get out you know what I mean? So you just see how like an organic conversation rolls into a song, which in turn, gives him a chance to talk about a real experience.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It's the same word, organic, like the organic relationships that. Okay, so before I slip, instead of saying it, let me ask you: do you think that would have happened organically if you and CyHi and you and Black and CyHi and Mark and all of those individuals involved did not have that relationship from the beginning?
Nah. Because I feel like that's what goes into it. Like, I remember I was watching an interview with Dr. Dre, and he was saying, like, during the time when they was making The Chronic, it was so chaotic because you had Crips and Bloods and niggas getting locked up and shootouts. But he was like, that's what made the music what it was. You know what I mean? Like, even around that time, like, it was a lot of shit going on behind the scenes with arguments and people getting taken out the situation, added to the situation. You know what I mean? And just whatever, bro. But I feel like us being like such a close-knit group, I think it does contribute to that. Because, there's always a difference when you hear a project where you got 12 producers and there's really no cohesion, opposed to when you got like an artist and a producer locked in. Like, it just sounds a lot better. That's why Future and Metro work so good together.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So I think like all of us like working in such close quarters, hooping together, eating together, like it all contributed to the way that shit sounded and came out.
Yeah, that's that relationship, right? That's building that relationship and having that camaraderie with one another, because now you don't have to force anything.
You don't.
It's all organic. It's like now you're free to talk about all the things that you probably would talk about in that relationship, right? Because if you put 2-3 strangers in a room, like, yo, y'all come up with an album, it's gonna be like, okay, cool. We may start off kind of talking a little bit, but I don't think it's going to create that natural synergy that you're going to get when it's you and your boys in a room when y'all cooking up.
But it's like, and I've been on the opposite side of this before. Like, sometimes you just come in a situation and you don't really know an artist's energy if you don't know that person. And if we're all just put in the room to make a dope song, like, shit, you're not gonna tell me you just broke up with your boyfriend and you really depressed about that because you don't know me.
Right.
You know
what
I mean?
So
we in here making party turned up records and you not feeling that. And I'm trying to figure out why you done passed on 20 beats. And the real reason it ain't because you don't like my sound, it's because you want something that fits your mood right now.
Right.
But if I was somebody that was in your circle, you would have told me that off top. Like, hey, 3, the upbeat shit cool, but man, me and such just broke up. Like, that's where my head at right now. Maybe I want to do some Here We Go Again, Trina and Kelly Rowland type shit. You know what I mean? And you gotta like be in tune with artists like that. And I think that's the benefit of really like knowing the person you working with, opposed to just pulling up and playing beats. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with it because I've been on both sides. But I do feel like I get more out of it when I really know that person. Like, I remember I would watch some shit. I was watching something and JD was saying like, damn, who was it? Somebody was basically saying they came to Atlanta to work with JD and he pretty much wasted, or the dude thought he was wasting like 2 or 3 days. You remember that?
Yeah.
And he was basically saying he was just kind of peeping his vibe. And by the time he came back, he had the perfect track for him.
Right.
Like, that's how I feel. Like, when you really get a chance to spend time or be around the artist, the song gonna write itself.
Right.
But when I don't really know you and I'm just trying to pitch records, it's tough.
Right. No, that's facts. Because I had somebody tell me I was the very first student on me and my home was the guy. It's so crazy, right? Once again, the extension of relationships that you have when you meet people for the first time. So me and him were the very first students at EI by Nelly's Extreme Institute back in
Wow.
St. Louis, right? And so around 2011, 12, when the school first opened, we went to the school. They had an open house session to kind of talk about the school and blah, 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 right? And so, and this is why I tell people, like, if you have good energy, if you're serious about what you want to do, you're focused, people are going to go, I want to kind of tap that person, help them achieve whatever it is they want to achieve, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Carl Napa, who was the executive director at EI, he saw me. He was like, I'm like, yeah, I'm here to learn engineering. I want to learn about the mixing process. Here's what I'm envisioning myself doing. Here's my goals. Blah blah. Blah. And he was like, yo, this dude is okay. He was like, unbeknownst to me, I got an email. Hey, congratulations, you got a scholarship to go to attend EI by Nelly. You can choose any course that you want, free of charge. We cover. I was like, oh,
Damn.
really? And so I was like, bet. Let me take the engineering class. And I took it, and it was taught by Carl Napa, who's engineered for Justin Timberlake and Extreme and, oh my gosh, Michael Jackson and all types of stuff, right? And so I get there and I'm like, yo, I appreciate, he was like, he said it was something about you and your energy and your focus. I was like, this is the guy I want to give a scholarship to. So in this class, it's just me and my homie Keith, who wasn't my homie at the time, but we became, because it was just he and I. And we spent weeks together in this mixing class. But I learned engineering. Mm-hmm. Do I engineer today? No. But do I know engineering? Yes. Because I went to school. I took a whole 10-week, 12-week engineering class with this guy who's engineered for everybody, right? But me and Keith we built a relationship. Now, of course, I have a relationship with Carl. I have a relationship with Wishmaster, who was one of the other guys that was there. But me and Keith have a very close, like, that's one of my best friends now, right? And so just the extension of building those relationships with one another, you never know what type of environments are going to present itself to have those relationships with people. And what's so crazy is I took an engineering class before I went to EI by Nelly. And I took it when I was in Virginia by a guy named George Jr. Mayers. George Jr. Mayers was the head engineer for Teddy Riley.
Wow.
Back in Virginia. I had no clue who this dude was. All I saw, he was like, yo, this is when I first got started in the music. He was like, yo, I got an engineering class. He put an ad in the newspaper, because that's where we put ads back in the day. It was in the newspaper. I saw it. I was like, man, I'm gonna go. He was like, I called him up. He was like, man, I was the only person in that class. The only person in that class.
Damn.
And so when I went to EI by Nelly, and Carl was telling me about, he was like, yeah, I mixed for Michael Jackson and Justin Timberlake and NSYNC and blah, 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 and all these. I mean, his discography is
crazy.
I was like, you mixed on the History album? He was like, yeah. I said, I know a guy who was on the History album that did engineering. He was like, who? I said, his name is Junior. He was like, George Jr. Mayers? I was like, yeah. He was like, I have not spoken to him in so long. I was like, you want to talk to him? He was like, yeah.
Connected that dot.
I called Junior and I was like, hey, you know Carl Napa? He was like, yeah. He said, we worked on a history project together. Okay, hold on. He's right here. Once again, relationships. You never know how those relationships are going to transpire over the years.
I would honestly say, and I'm trying to think before I speak, but I would honestly say at least 80% of my placements, maybe even 90, have came from relationships. I think maybe 1 or 2 times I've gotten a placement from like an A&R doing their job, or you know what I mean? Just some random shit happening. But 9 times out of 10, like our most recent placement with 2 Chainz and Lil Wayne, that came from us just working with Bird. Bird was actually working on his project. He asked us to send him a pack of beats. Of course, that's the homie. We send him a pack. He ends up using one of the joints, and somehow that gets heard by Chainz, and he hits Bird like, yo, I want that first beat. You know what I mean? But that's just us, like, just the relationship, us coming through for the homie, not even expecting it to go there. He just calls us for a pack of beats. Hey, bro, we got you. You know what I mean? And 6 months later, it turns into him calling us like, yo, we might have a placement with 2 Chainz. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
So just
That's dope.
relationships, man, and that's normally how it goes. Like I said, for the most part, it's always gonna be somebody that I know that's in the room and they're thinking of me.
Mm,
And that's I always tell people like it ain't always who you know, it's who you know that thinks about you when they have an opportunity.
that's right.
You know what I mean?
That's
Because
right.
you may know a lot of people, but are they gonna think about your name when it's time to get a bag?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's really what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm. That I think that is important right there. Are they talking about you in those spaces? Are they thinking about you in those spaces, in those opportunities to reach back and say, "Hey,
Exactly. Because that's
send
the
some
only
stuff.
way it works, man. You
Roll
know?
out. Come out to the event. Come out to the event." Like I kid you not. I got a call from a guy that I know that I interviewed, and he called me. He sent me a text. He was like, "Yo, are you in the building?" I was like, "Am I in the building? He was like, "Is that you I see over there?" I'm like, "Nah, bro, I don't know what you." I'm like, "I'm not in any building. I'm at home." He was like, "Man," he said, "I could swear this dude looked just like you." He said, "I was about to invite you over to the VIP section." I was like, "Word? Like, what's going on?" He was like, "Oh, it was me, Jada, some other people over." Like Jada. I'm like Jada Kiss,
Yeah.
like Jada. He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Nah, I ain't there." I said, "But if I was there, I appreciate that."
But
Right?
it definitely took you up on that.
I was like, "What?" He said, I looked up and he was like, "Yo, is that my man's over there?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm at home, bro." But once again, are people, even in that point, he saw somebody that looked like, was like, "Yo, is that my guy? Let me have him come over." Like, are people thinking about you in those spaces to reach back and offer you those types of opportunities?
Exactly.
Like, I think that's important. That stems from that relationship that you build, that connection that you have with others.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that stems from just doing good business too. Like that's
Mm.
another thing. Like if you notice, that's
Hmm.
why you'll see artists work with a producer for like their first project and then something goes left and they never work
Hmm.
again. Or you'll see like a group of producers work together and then they get a big placement and now nobody talks.
Right.
It's usually because there was bad business. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, where we might have had to negotiate a little bit, somebody wants to play hardball and it messes it up for everybody. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So I think even with that, it's like when you know you got people who are not gonna make the situation tough, you just want to rinse and repeat.
That's right.
Like I know right now, if we get a placement with Bird, it's like, all right, phone call, this is the splits, how you feel about it, cool, let's move
Yeah.
forward. Other people, it could be a whole different type of, you know what I'm saying, process to where they want to call their lawyer taking 2 weeks to get back to them.
We ain't
And
got
in the
time for
time,
all
yeah,
that.
you doing all that. They
You
done
doing the
chose another
most.
track.
Right.
Because you don't even know we was really the 18th track anyway on the 18-song album. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you
Yeah.
doing all this, they like, get rid of that.
Yeah, we got some other tracks that we can put in this spot.
You know, so a lot of times, man, that's why you see that a lot. Once you kind of like go through it and you pick like your group of people that you
Mhm.
rock with, you rather not even deal with the headaches that might come, you know, with dealing with somebody you don't know.
That's right.
You know, so relationships are everything,
Relationships.
man.
Relationships, man. That's crazy. So okay, so let's kind of switch gears for a moment and just talk about Creative Villains writing camp. And so what's the so let me ask you this 1st.
Mhm.
How did it evolve? So what started it and how have you seen it evolve over the years? And where do you see it going in the next couple of years?
Man, so it's crazy. I feel like, again, the writing camp thing just kind of happened organically. I think with us, a lot of times, we try to focus on things that don't really take a heavy lift. Like, okay, we're
Mm.
already in the studio, and during the pandemic shit, we was running it like a factory, like a machine. You know what I'm saying? Like an assembly line. We had 2 rooms set up, and it would be like a producer in there. I would be in one room with maybe 2 or 3 writers. Black would be in the other room, and we would just rotate that every day.
Mm.
So after a while, it kind of got to a point for us. It was like, okay, instead of doing this every day, you know, and not really having that much organization, let's at least slow it down and just start making this a camp. Like, let's put together the targets that we're getting from A&Rs or whoever we know that are sending these
Mhm.
plays our way. Pick some of our favorite writers, you know what I'm saying, and put the room together that way.
Mm.
And it's crazy to see, you know, the response that we got, just overall in Atlanta first, but we just recently did one last year, Grammy weekend.
I saw.
And that was wild. You
I
know what I
saw.
mean? Because I was a little nervous, man. Like, we know people out west, but you never really know how people are gonna show up for you. You know, when you posted, everybody hitting you in the DM like, "Oh, bro, I rock with it. I'm gonna be there." But you don't really know if they're gonna follow through on that. Right. So just to see like all the love that we got when we was out in the West Coast, I fuck with it, man. I think in the future, I really do want to try to run that again during Grammy weekend, but I also want to try to do something in New York. We've been noticing with the analytics from a lot of our content, we're getting a lot of love in New York. So we definitely want to try to tap in and just, do something for the Big Apple.
Right. You hear that, ladies and gentlemen, right? The analytics from some of their content led them to say, you know what, we need to do something in New York.
Because we just started noticing. I'm like, yo, like, obviously Jacksonville's always gonna be up there because that's where I'm from. Right. And then Atlanta, that's where, we're based out of. But we started noticing on the Creative Villains page, New York is like the top city. So I'm like, okay, something is happening right there. I don't really know what, but we might need to tap in and start doing some of these activations in New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's smart. That is smart. That's smart because once again, that goes back to understanding your business, right? I always give this example. I actually need to hit him back up to get him back over here for the interview, but I always use the example. There's I think you may know him. His name's Kean Martin.
Kean Martin.
Yeah, he's a singer.
I'm not familiar.
And super dope singer, right? But I always use the example of, bro, how did you know to go to Italy to perform? Like you in Atlanta, bro. How'd you know to go to Italy? He was like, yo, my analytics told me.
He was going crazy over there, huh? Hey, the analytics do not lie.
When I say it was crazy, it was like literally almost sold out. Tour.
Damn.
Italy. Bruh. I was like, and this is questions I asked him, not on the show, because we haven't interviewed him yet, but I know him. And so I would see him at different events. And I was like, yo, bro, I just saw this post. You went to Italy. Like, how'd you know to go there? He kind of told me. He was like, yo, the analytics said that I was getting a lot of plays of my music in Italy. And he was like, yo, I looked at the data and I was like, yo, that's a lot of stuff. He said, so we just set up a mini tour over there.
That shit, bro, it'll do it for you. Like I said, like, our personal pages are going to do what they do because we got people where we from that's going to tune in. Right. You can't really gauge that. But when I looked at the brand page and I seen that one was really pinging in New York heavy, I said, okay, we got to figure that out.
Right.
So I think that will be the next camp. We'll probably do next summer in New York just because I'm not really a big fan of the winter in New York being from Florida.
No, sir.
I can't do it.
Nah, man.
But summer times in New York are beautiful.
Right.
So we might try to do something like June or July.
Okay. So not only do you have the Creative Villains writing camp, you also have Creative Academy Atlanta.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what was the vision for Creative Academy, right? So you have the songwriting camp, you have the studio, Creative Corner, and you got Creative Academy.
Creative Academy. So for those that don't know, my partner Black has like been a full-time piano teacher on the side for a long time. You know what I'm saying? That's like his side hustle. So it kind of started during the pandemic when we both were just like, all right, bro, we just need to go full-time entrepreneur. You know what I mean? And if that's what you're doing on the side, why don't we just do it for ourselves? Obviously you can't take the students from the school you're working at,
right.
But just start bringing your own students and doing the lessons here at the studio. So it started with him doing piano lessons. Now we offer music production, vocal lessons, and engineering lessons.
Wow.
Yeah, man. So just really, trying to find our way to give back as well. Because I think it was something that we started noticing whenever we started hiring engineers and doing like engineer interviews. It would just be so many things that the fundamentals, going back to that, it would be so many fundamentals missing. It's like, bro, you want to record, but you ain't even get the tempo. You in a world of you know what I mean? That's like step one. So when we start noticing that, it was like, okay, I think whenever we would have interns come on, I started off offering them the lessons. And then from there, it was just like other people would inquire. So I'm like, all right, well, we might as well make this a full-time thing. And that's really how the Academy got started.
Wow. So there's three of you, right? There's you, there's Black.
It's just me and Black.
Oh, okay.
Just me and Black. Ty is our A&R.
Okay.
Ty Sanders, yeah. You probably saw Ty at that event. Ty is our A&R. So even that, man, having him on is, super helpful because I feel like in the past, a lot of the plays that came through were solely based off of our relationships. You know what I mean? Just having like an A&R to go out and seek plays and meet people and bring it back to us, like, huge help.
Right. Hold on. I'm gonna make sure. Cause you just said something that I was like, wait. I was like, I think I met him before.
Who?
Ty.
I'm pretty sure you have.
I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure you met Ty.
I'm sure. Like, that's so crazy because there's so many events. Like,
yeah. I'm pretty sure you met Ty.
I do miss events though. I miss it. I said I miss events, but there's tons of events that go on.
Did you go to the Teddy Swims joint they did?
No.
Fire.
I wanted to go.
That was fire.
Guess what I had during Teddy Swims events?
Interview?
Ray Daniels. So I was like, I'm going to interview Ray Daniels.
And I know that was a good one.
It was dope. It comes out in 2 weeks.
Ray is made for this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bruh. Yep. So I wanted to go.
I aspired to get to his level on the podcast tip. Like,
bro, me too. Because he came over. He said, man, I shoot about 3 episodes a day. He said, we just
chop it up.
They in there working. That's the beauty of having, like, so and so this is what I mean by doing it no matter what. If you don't have all the cameras and the lights, and do it no matter what. He said, and y'all see this in the clip, right? Not to give it all away, but he said when he first started, he called up all his homies. It was like, and Ray's a mad influential person within the urban music scene.
His homies are some heavyweights. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so he said they were like, yo, so what's happening? What you doing? Like, what's going on? Like, what is it? They started asking him all these questions. He was like, man, if you don't want to do it, just tell me you don't want to do it. He's like, I got something that's happening. You my homie. Are you going to come out and support? But instead you're asking me all these questions about what it is. And, right. He said, so for the longest time, he said, if you go back and watch the videos, it's just me. I'm doing it by myself.
I peeped that.
He said for the longest time, it was just me doing it by myself. He said, then eventually, hey, I want to come and do this and blah. He said, now I'm interviewing LL Cool J. He said, LL knows my name. He said, I'm interviewing LL and Joe Budden and Bink and all these higher echelon people, right? He said, but for the longest time, it was just me. And, I sat back and I'm like, because I'm a student. Yeah. Like, I learn. And I was like, Ray, that's the boat that I'm in. Is that it's, for the longest time, it's just been myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, I got my sons who run.
You got your team.
Right, I got my sons who run, command center to make sure this thing is looking nice, the camera's being switched the way they're supposed to and all that stuff. But actual interviews and podcasts, it was just me by myself. And then I ended up bringing on somebody, my homie Johan Say. And then I ended up bringing on Brian Honore, who's now the permanent co-host for the podcast. But now people are starting to come, right? But yeah. So long story. That interview with Ray was dope. Yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff. So I didn't go to the Teddy Swims joint. I would have loved to, but I was like, that was right at the.
Yeah, man. Hey, he's special, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, I didn't really know a lot about him prior to that. I've heard the song, the Lose Control joint, like everybody else. But to see him perform that live, it was like, oh, it gave me chills. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're one of them ones. You're one of them ones, bro. And you can tell, like, it's effortless for him. Like, that song is coming from here, so it's not like he had to, like, sit down and, sit down with it for 3-4 days. I'm sure when he got the beat or whatever they was doing, that shit probably just start flowing.
I'm sure.
He's special.
I'm sure. And once again, that organic, I think some of the best music comes just organically and just comes from those great places of emotion.
Yeah.
Whether those emotions are positive or negative. But I think the best albums come from negative emotions, right? Like one of my favorite albums is Mary J. Blige's My Life.
Oh yeah, she was going
through it.
I remember I watched that documentary They was talking about like her and Puff in the studio crying and just like really torn apart. I'm like, damn, I don't know if I want to go through all that to like
it, bro.
get the end product.
And that album, boy,
classic.
Classic. It's sitting over there in my album collection, bro. That
shit, it's like Get Rich or Die Trying. We all know what 50 went through to make that.
Right.
You know? You don't make that album unless you go through what he went through.
He went through it.
Think about a song like Many Men. You can't write that. You gotta really have lived that. You gotta live think from that perspective. You can't just write that. Man. So you're right. A lot of the best music does come from like
the soul,
the like the darkest places. Yeah, the most vulnerable times. Really.
Yeah. So with that being said, how do you feel about AI and its involvement now in the music space, music production space? And how do you think AI is going to impact the role of music producers?
I'm like 75-25, man. Like 25% of me hates it. Just because I feel like it is making it a little too easy. But the other 75% of me fully embraces it because I realize this is probably the same thing. I wasn't around then, but I'm quite sure this is the same thing that happened when that big transition from analog to digital happened. You know what I mean? And everybody started using Pro Tools instead of the SSL. So it's like you don't want to be the old nigga on the wrong side of the fence complaining about the change. But at the same time, like I saw something the other day where this girl made a song about her boyfriend. And it was like about him not cleaning up or doing the dishes. But she literally went to the app, like picked a beat, picked like the style of beat, wrote in like some lyrics about what she wanted the song to be about, and it spit out a full song for her.
Bruh.
That's when I'm like, all right, I don't know, bruh. Because in the wrong hands, this could be deadly. Like you give that to somebody, not saying he would use it, but give that to somebody like a Mike Will or a Hitmaker that really know what they doing, bruh, they'll been done churned out 6 albums. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm like, I don't know. I'm for it until it gets to the point where, or like the dude in China that made all those songs through AI and made like a couple $1 million because he had the bots listening.
Yeah. Bruh.
It's like, okay. And I think that's when they're starting to see like how it can work against them. Like, okay, we doing all this shit to kind of devalue the music, but this is the way it could work against us. You know, AI is a double-edged sword on both sides, man.
Double-edged on both sides. Oh my goodness. Because when I was first introduced to AI music generation, because I don't think it's creation. I think it's generation.
That's the best way to put it. Right. It's not creation. There's nothing creative about it. It's being generated. Right? Yeah.
So AI music generation. I found it and I went in and typed in all the prompts and all that. And I was like, what the heck is this? I called my wife. I was like, babe, come in here. Come sit down. Come listen to this. And so she sat in this chair and I put in the prompt. Woman, you know, beautiful woman sitting in a chair, you know, and whatever the rest of the prompts I put in, it spit out this song. And she was like, yo, send me that. She was like, send that to me. I want to use that as like for something. I'm like, nah, as a music creative, I'm like, no, ma'am, you don't take this and use it for something. But what it spit out was amazing. But here's the thing. It was amazing, but I could still tell it had some issues, right? With some of the vocals because it did the music and the vocal. I was like, how'd you write this? Like,
it's scary. Like if you go to ChatGPT right now, you say, write me a Taylor Swift song. It'll write the whole song.
It'll write the whole song. Yo, ChatGPT can read an MP3 file. It can read the tone, the mood, the feel of the MP3 file. And it can start to write lyrics based upon the tone, the feel, and the I was like, what is going on? What is going on? Now we think because the entryway back in the day to music it wasn't easy to get to be a music producer back in the Pete Rock, you know, era. You just couldn't, you know, RZA era. You just couldn't be like. I mean, how much was it? How much was an SP 1200 back in the day? Like you can buy them now, but back in the day,
that shit was heavy.
Right,
$5,000-$10,000. Right, like who had that?
Who had that? Except major studios or people who had lots of money,
or the dope boys,
dope boys, right? I mean, that's really they had the money to buy the studio equipment to do that. Like, I mean, you can get an SP1200 now for like, go to eBay, it's $600, right? It's easy. But back then it was difficult to get into now. And then with the advent of going from analog to digital, it now made it easier for people to get into music. Now it's like easier because my son can just sit at the computer like, yeah, I want to make a soundtrack similar to, you know, Lord of the Rings, but with a more climactic feeling. He can just type in the prompt and it'll
spit it out.
Spit it out.
I think the only thing that AI can't do, like I still feel like, and this is what I see a lot of, you know, on my day-to-day, I still think there's a need for the producer. Because even with me owning the studio, man, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm gonna keep it a bean. I would say about 95% of my indie clients come in and download beats off YouTube.
They do.
And
they do.
A lot of times, okay, you took the beat maker out the equation.
Yeah.
But you need somebody in here coaching you through this shit. You know what I mean? Because your hook is 9 bars.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like
9
you
bars.
don't even know how to read your bars, so your verse is 23 bars. You know what I mean? The song's all over the place. There's no repetition on the hook. Like these are all things that producers know. And I feel like sometimes making it more accessible doesn't always mean that it's easier to achieve your goal. Because now, everybody has beats, but I'm sure back in the 90s, for you to even get with a producer to get a beat, the producer was there.
Right.
Or they had somebody in the room that could coach you through this because you just invested 10, 20 bands on this.
That's right.
Now it's like, okay, you can go to YouTube and get the free beat, but now who's going to coach you through it?
Right.
You know? So it's almost like, I think, like I said, it's gotten a little easier, but I feel like there's more of a need than ever for like guidance and production.
Man, and even from that perspective, even if I'm downloading beats from YouTube, what are the parameters of that beat? Is it royalty free? Is it master clearance guaranteed? Do I gotta give people some publishing?
Man, there was an instance like that with one of these producers where, and I wish I could remember the name of the song, but anyway, somebody pretty much downloaded a beat off YouTube, didn't credit the producer, the song blows up, and he had all the leverage. Cause it's my beat. Shit, you could have probably got it from me for $500, but now this song will generate it, you know what I'm saying, 5 M's. Nah, I want my check.
Yeah.
And that's the risky thing about it. And I've been around artists who done got cease and desist because the producer sold that.
That's right.
You know, and that's something you probably shot a video to, built a whole campaign around.
That's right.
You know, so I always encourage artists like, hey, I don't care if it's YouTube, SoundClick, whatever. If you're using something that's not yours, reach out to that producer. Even if he's saying, hey, the lease is $50, exclusive $100. Pay the $100 just to alleviate the headache. Cause ain't that what happened with Panda?
That's what happened with Panda.
Designer bought that beat for like $250, $500, and it went on to be what it is today. And he was good because he paid the producer. That's all he had to do. Imagine if he didn't do that and that song got as big as it did.
Yeah. I just saw a video of and DJ Payne one made a whole video in context of what had happened, but it was a producer by the name of Kyle Beats, right? Kyle has a huge YouTube following, right? And so he put out here's why I'm telling people, right? He put out a royalty-free sample pack. What does royalty-free mean? I don't gotta pay no royalties, right? It's free from paying royalties, right? The song was used by a dude by the name of Mexican OT.
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, right? And that song blew up. It was like a platinum song.
And then he wanted royalties.
He wanted royalties. Because he was like, yo, wait a minute. This came out of this pack. This song was made by this dude. Like, yo, wait a minute. We need to get them on the phone and talk about the whole. Bro, it was a royalty free. That's like, I got away from, you know, as a producer, when you first start, you're like, oh, they got these loop packs, they got some sounds in them, we kind of use those. Bro, I got completely away from using any of that. If it don't come from like TrackLib, or I'm not making it somewhere on the keyboard, or, you know, that Key 30 something, I'm not messing with a loop, royalty free, because even royalty free loops still have stipulations.
The thing with that, man, is that shit be royalty free till it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like it's royalty free until Cardi B get on it, or until it gets a million streams. And that's why we don't even play that game. Like a lot of times, in our cases, we have like 2 or 3 producers that we collab with heavy. They send us loop pack straight to our Dropbox. But we've already worked with them, so it's already established. Hey, if this goes, this is what we do. This is how we handle business. That goes back to what we were saying earlier. Those are the situations where it's like you're not working with your team. You take that chance trying to get this one-off situation with this kid you don't know in Austria. You know what I mean? Or just wherever the fuck he from. Yeah.
That's where they making
send
them
you
hits.
a fire loop, and now he don't want to play ball. And you ruin a whole placement.
Right.
So again, goes back to relationships. That's why I generally work with the same people.
Right.
I remember I was working with a writer one time. He didn't want to give the artist publishing on the song because he wrote the song. I said, "Oh yeah, we'll never work again."
like, yeah, bro, we're never working with you again.
And this was an indie artist, so I'm just knowing I would never invite you to a major label opportunity based off the way you handled this.
So that's a question I wanted to ask you, because you talked about that in your introduction. Starting off working with indie artists, and then now being in rooms with major players at the highest level. What were some of the differences you noticed in the way that they approach music business, from both sides? What were some of the things you saw from an indie perspective and from those major players at the highest level?
Well, I think one of the major things that I saw in common was people that are just business minded and business oriented win. And I don't care if you're indie or major. Like, I think the indie artists who I've seen cross over and become major, or even just have success on the indie level, were still organized and about their business. Like, they wasn't pulling up to the session 30 minutes late. They wasn't pulling up to the session hella drunk. Like, you know what I mean? They just had they shit in order. Like, even when it came to paying for the session, I don't got to chase them down for the back end. Or, you could just tell, like, you're going to be all right when you get a bag because you're practicing how you want to play. Same thing with major artists. Like, I would say with them, because they have a buffer, sometimes it may not be them that has to be as on top of it, but their team is. And I think that's the biggest difference. Like, I've been around people, and I don't care who you are, it's still unprofessional if you pull up to a session 2 minutes late. 2 hours late. They're supposed to start at 9.
That's right.
And then I don't work with major label artists where, like, I love to get to the studio early. So if I got a session at 9, I'm there 8:30, 8:45. I worked with a nigga one time. He was waiting on me. I worked with Mace one time. I'm gonna just go ahead and say his name because it was so dope. I'm like, damn, bro.
He's like, I'm here.
Shit, we working today, right? You my engineer? You know what I mean? And he was just ready to get. He like, look, I ain't got a lot of time, man. I gotta, I gotta be out of here in 2 hours. So let's make the use of it. I was like, I fuck with that.
Right.
You ain't wasting my time. I ain't wasting yours, bro.
That's good.
But I think that's the one thing I've seen in common. And then I feel like the thing that I've noticed in common about unsuccessful indie artists and major label artists is they just let life happen. Like, we all go through shit every day. You know what I mean? But it's like, because something happened at 9, does that stop your session at 12? You know what I mean? Like, I think the successful people just figure out a way to make it work. Even if I ain't having the best day, I still got to go to the gym, or I still got to go to the studio. So I think that's the thing that I've noticed. Like, a lot of unsuccessful artists, indie or major, always got an excuse. There's always something that's holding them back from doing what they need to do. No accountability.
No accountability. Yeah. Now I was just wondering, because you mentioned that, and I meant to come back and ask that question.
Yeah, because like, for me, I think that's how I gauge it. Like, I want to see you help yourself.
Right.
Like, if someone comes up to me and they're asking for something, I'm not gonna help you. If you just pay $400-$500 for a beat from me, that one beat might be your entryway into like a lifelong relationship with me, because I see you take your shit serious enough for me to. You know what I mean? Or like, when we work with an indie artist, like, let me see what you do with this beat. Like, did you shoot the video? Did you go on podcasts? Did you really try to milk this for everything it's worth? Because for me, that's going to determine if I want to work with you again. I'm not doing it for the little $500 upfront.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that ain't what it's about. I want to know that potentially I'm working with somebody that takes it just as serious as me, and that increases your chances of getting us out the hood. You know what I mean?
Facts, though. That's right. That's right, man.
So that's why,
y'all make sure y'all on y'all grind, bro.
Yeah,
like,
them indie
sure
artists,
y'all
man.
stuff.
Just, you got to do what you got to do, because you never know, like, who might be willing to work with you just based off of, going back to what you said earlier, what you've already put in.
Right.
Sometimes, like, I listen to everything people send me. And a lot of times I want to go to your page and just see, like, are you on it?
Gosh, talk fuck all them pages, bro. Like,
yeah, man. Then you go to dude page. It's like him with the pistol, 36, pictures back to back. It's like, do you even make music?
Bruh. Oh my gosh. This is like so me and my co-host Brian, we oh my gosh, bro, we talk about stuff like this. It's like I know hella talented people who ain't doing a
They
single
page
thing.
don't reflect. I remember this one girl, she was telling me like she was just big on this singer from her town. Like, man, she the best singer in church and she been that girl since we was 16. I go to her page, it's like her cooking in the kitchen with her family, her with her niece. I'm like, so if you trying to make music, like you don't even know, I'm not even saying I'm Jermaine Dupri or nobody, but I probably could put you in motion or, put you in contact with some people. When I go to look at the page, I don't see one thing music related. And I'm not about to reach out to you and ask you to send me some.
I'm not.
That's your one audition.
That is not about to happen.
Nah.
I'm not the person that's going to be like, well, hey, no.
And that's what people don't be understanding, man. That's your brand.
Right there. That is your advertisement of who you are as an individual, as a music producer, artist, singer, whatever it is. That is your representation of what you do to everyone else, which is why it kills me when producers, singers, and artists have private pages. Like,
yeah,
why is your page private? Like,
make a Finsta if you want to do that.
Because
for your main page,
you're a rapper, and your page is you're a singer. Your page is private. No videos of you singing or rapping or producing or engineering. No, nothing. All I see is you modeling on your page. Man. Then be a model, but don't in your bio don't say I'm an artist, music producer, singer, songwriter. Put your model.
Yeah, man. Them IG pages can be hella misleading.
Hella misleading. And then I know people who are super talented, multi-instrumentalists, can play every instrument that's known to man, and on your page you got 3 pictures.
Man, even for us though, I practice what I preach. Like I won't just get out there and say something and it's not something I'm like actually living or what I'm saying, practicing on my own. Like even with us, I remember we had to sit down with Tammy, who was just here.
Yeah.
We had to sit down with Tammy. We were just trying to kind of, strategize about some things. And during that sit down, Tammy was like, man, I ain't gonna lie, like y'all done made all the beats y'all can make. I think y'all just gotta market this better. Like more people have to know what y'all bring to the table. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what it came down to for us. Like, okay, even with our pages, like it's one thing just to post a cover art to a placement or, you know what I'm saying? When some dope shit like that happens or you at the Grammys or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like in the interim, bro, people want to see like, how did you get there? What did you do? Like, or even just your personality with some of the content. That's right. It was just like, all right, if we're trying to pitch this and not only for us as producers, but we're really pivoting into a label. So I want people to see the lifestyle of it. I want people to see who me and Black are as men. Just, for artists to be like, hey, that's somebody I want to be around or I don't want to be around. Yeah. But, you start to realize like with that content, you've got to give a little bit more of yourself and who you are to really like get back.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So yeah, man, that's really like why we started to dive into it. Cause it's like, okay, it's one thing for people to see this, but even with the engineering stuff, I don't always think people know how knowledgeable we are when it comes to that because we're such successful producers.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I could tell every time somebody comes in and we do an interview or something, it's like, oh, you thought you was going to slide. I really know that. Like, take that back from the top.
Exactly. But that's, once again, that was the reason why I went to school to learn engineering. Even though I'm not an engineer, I wanted to know how to engineer so that if I'm ever in a situation with someone and we're in the studio, right? Because this is when I was like, I'm really going to be this producer. I want to be a producer. I'm going to learn engineering. I'm going to learn production. I'm going to learn all this. I mean, I took a music production course at EI too, right? So I went from engineering to a music production course, right? And Wishmaster was our music producer teacher.
You know Wavy Wayne?
I don't know Wavy Wayne, but I do know he's teaching. Yeah. Okay. So by the time I left the school only had 2 students, which was me and Keith in the very beginning. Then the school started to grow and grow and grow and grow. And then, one of my homies, Courtney was a professor there. Wavy Wayne taught there. I think I'm not sure if Zoe from the Track Stars taught there or not. I can't remember. But it grew, right? It just grew. but I wanted to know so that if I'm in that situation and they're talking with something, yeah, we're just gonna raise it down by 3 dB. I'm like, I don't want to be in that situation. Like, what's DB mean? What's the
Man,
database?
you know what? Like at this point in my journey, I honestly feel like that's why I had to play every position.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
now that I'm at the point where I want to start breaking my own artists and running the label, it's like, okay, I had to go through and play intern. I had to go through and play engineer. I had to go through and play producer. So now I know like what it feels like to be one of them, what the gripes and the complaints might be. But then I also know what an excuse or bullshit sounds like coming from that position. You know what I mean? Because I was in both. So I feel like at this point, like, it makes it easier for me to be a good leader because I've been in both of those positions. Like some of them NFL owners, if you never played the game, you don't know what's going on the field for real.
That's for real.
You know what I'm saying? Some of them coaches, it's like, okay, you could tell me to do this, but have you ever physically tried to do that yourself? Do you know how hard that really is to do? Like I know like with my engineers, okay, if he been here since 9 and it's 4 a.m., I probably can't push him for another hour because I know how that felt for me. Like I already done extended for y'all twice, bro. Now y'all want to do another hour? You know what I mean?
Right.
Or like my producer is like, okay, if I done had you send me 5 beats in 2 days, I probably can't push you to chop 5 more samples. Because I've been there where it's like, I'm burnt, bro. Like creatively, I can churn this out for you, but is it going to be my best? No. So I think just wearing all those different hats, it really did give me insight, like as to how it feels to, like you said, play that position.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't want to engineer shit, like what it is, what the job entails.
I don't want to engineer.
I can't lie, man. I think the higher I started to climb, that's when I realized, like, nah, I don't want to do this like that.
I don't want to do this. Now what's so crazy is that I was having a conversation early when we started the podcast, and there was a guy I was talking to. He was an actual engineer. He now became like a photographer and does some other stuff. And we had this conversation. I was like, and it was like an epiphany. I said, but what I do love is like editing video and color grading video, making it look great. And he was like, yo, but that's just engineering, but on the video side. I was like, you're right.
So you know what I had to learn? Right. I like mixing. I don't like tracking. I'm not a tracking engineer because I know this, and I hate this about me, but it's tough for me to work with people who aren't receptive to my advice.
Right.
Like I can only take that so many times in a session, especially when I know like this ain't good, bro.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, like it gets frustrating. Yeah. I would just rather be the one to touch it when you're done, you're out of the room, and I can just add whatever I think should be there.
Right.
I started noticing like, okay, it's not that I don't like engineering. I just don't like tracking.
Right. Yeah.
I want to touch it when it's done.
Right. Which is why I don't manage artists anymore.
That's a whole different ball game.
They don't like to listen to.
They don't. And that's
anything. I'm like, nah, I'm good.
That's unfortunate, man. But I think that's like the biggest battle that we've kind of been going through when it comes down to just really trying to find an artist to get behind and invest in. You know what I'm saying? We finally found somebody that we feel pretty strongly about. But I think up until this point, man, it really was just about that. Just finding somebody that you could really like believe in, get behind, and that actually fucking listens.
Yeah.
Because we did it before and the whole situation just fell apart. And it really put a bad taste in my mouth. You know what I'm saying? For a while, I'm just like, man, I don't even want to invest that much time or energy in somebody else.
Right.
I'd rather just do something I can control. But it's kind of getting to a point now where it's like having that artist is really the only way. I mean, it's always been like that. But I think now with opportunities kind of drying up, you even see Atlantic cut like 50 artists, you know?
Man.
So it's like, I think now, like, you really got to just get in and really lock in with the group of people that you rock with and they rock with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the shift in the entirety of the music industry is changing. I think the establishment is starting to crumble a little bit. I think there's going to be a shift in just the music itself, about the topic of music and the themes of songs are probably going to end up changing. I just think it's we're about to see a massive overhaul of the music industry.
I agree.
And I think now we got to figure out, okay, how do we maneuver in this, and how do we then capitalize on what's actually happening, so that we don't find ourselves in those same positions, right? We're like, what are the biggest lessons that we can learn from? I mean, not only just Atlantic. I mean, you got head people stepping down, right? Spotify doing crazy stuff. I mean, it's like a wild, wild west out there.
It really is, man. And I mean, that's kind of why I brought that up, because I feel like as a creative, it's a little scary. Like you don't know what's next. So with all these opportunities drying up, it's like, damn, okay, let me stick to my team and try to figure out how to break an artist, because that seems like the one thing that'll be sustainable no matter what.
Yep.
Whether they figure out how to AI the songwriter, the producer, whoever, I feel like they'll still need the artist. Like you still need the person to push the product.
Right.
You know what I mean? And although that's even tough, because I got a friend that just broke a really big artist. And you could see, like, even from his perspective, it feels like for him, they keep moving the goal line back.
Yeah.
Like, hey, go gold, then you go gold. Hey, go platinum. You know what I mean? So I don't think it ever gets easier. I think that's just life in general. But I do feel like at some point with the way this thing is going, you got to pivot.
You got to pivot.
You got to pivot.
You got to pivot. Got to pivot.
It's like 10 years ago, if you was somebody in the NBA that didn't shoot threes, like, you would be obsolete now.
Right.
Because you got 7-footers like standing back there letting it go. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Man, so what's next for 3D and for Kreative Villains?
Man, honestly, like I said, bro, I really think the main focus moving forward is just trying to sign some of our own talent and really get this label popping. You know what I mean? We quiet as kept. We got a writer and 2 producers signed to us right now. So they really just been helping, like, creatively, you know what I mean, with some of the load that we got when it comes to just knocking out some of these projects, getting artist demos and things of that nature. And just really building that team infrastructure, man. Like, I think for so long we were so focused on just placement. To now we're taking a step back and focusing on our brand. Like we just released the Pro Tools Playbook, which is pretty much like our 10-step guide of just things that we feel like engineers need to know, whether they're just starting out or you got a little bit of experience. You know, diving into those digital products, man, like things that we don't necessarily have to trade time for money for.
Right, exactly.
You know, so just really starting to try to look at the whole field, man, instead of like looking at that little piece of it with tunnel vision. I feel like it's kind of like an athlete. Like when you playing, you just thinking about like on the court. Towards like the latter years of your career, you start to like think about, okay, what am I gonna do with like my name and all this money I generated over the years? You know, am I gonna broadcast or whatever? So I think for us, it's just really transitioning and trying to, like I said, start our label, but also give people opportunities.
Right.
Like I want to be able to make sure that, you know, we bring in engineers on, writers on, producers on, and just, you know, even if it's not, because I feel like sometimes people get so caught up in like the major opportunities.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of times, like I was saying earlier, you need to work with some of these indies to build that confidence. So just making sure even before they get in the room with a Lil Durk or somebody, like you got studio etiquette and you know how to handle yourself. You know what I mean? And you can read the room a little bit better before we just throw you in there.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is critical. It's now that you've been in this field for so long and you have gained certain levels of expertise. How do you now capitalize on that?
Exactly.
Whether it's through digital products, right? Creating the Pro Tools Playbook, whether it's doing speaking engagements, which I know y'all just did recently, sharing that knowledge with others, whether it's coming on podcasts, hosting your own podcast, sharing knowledge, or whether it's commentating on the state of music, which is something we're going to talk about a little later because I got an idea. I just got to find people who want to be involved in it, but I got an idea that I want to do. But you kind of see people now starting to do that, right? A lot of NBA players who used to play are now commentating. Like my wife's nephew he now went from MMA to commentating and doing, you know.
But even them like podcasting.
Yeah, he does like podcasting and commentating and stuff like that. So you never know where your career takes you based upon the knowledge and how you can capitalize on that. Because I'm looking at a lot of stuff in that field from my own expertise to capitalize in this what I'm doing now for. Yeah. But I got some stuff coming. Trust me, I got some stuff that's gonna be hitting for the indies. Okay, last question, my guy. Everybody wants to be a producer. Everybody wants to be an artist. Everybody wants to be a producer. What would you tell them? What advice would you give them? Is it for everybody to be in this music business, music world?
Where's my camera? Let me look.
Yeah, right over there.
No, I do not think being a producer is for everyone. I feel like people have got to be, a little more realistic about it. I think producing has become like the cool thing now. But I do feel like at the end of the day, man, there are so many other roles that you could play in the music industry. You could be a manager, you could be a writer, you could be a road manager, like I was saying earlier. You might even just need to learn how to play a specific instrument instead of trying to make the whole beat. But I do feel like producers are getting oversaturated, and that's why you have people selling beats for $50 online and $25 online. You know what I mean? I think that's one of those things too. Even if you do think you want to be a producer, take into consideration how you deal with people, because if you don't have people skills, that's probably not the job for you at all, because you're going to have to know how to deal with people when you're right and they're wrong and they think you're wrong, but you're right. I know that was a lot to say, but that's how it is in the studio. You've got to kind of figure out, okay, how do I massage this person's ego and still get my point across? Because I know what I'm telling you is what's best for the song, but I'm going to let you, operate in where you need to operate so I can still get the best performance for this record. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, man, I don't think it's for everybody. And really just look at the man in the mirror, bro. If you don't like being around people or you're not a people person, this might not be the gig for you.
Facts.
Because I've seen it, and it's like, bro, why are you torturing yourself? You don't even like being around people.
You don't even like being around people. And you got to be
what I mean?
In situations with people all the time.
All the time. All the time.
All the time.
I'm a people person, and there's times before like sessions, I just need like 3 minutes in my car. Like, all right, just give me the strength.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Give me the strength to deal with these niggas right now, because oh my gosh,
straight up. So if you're not a people person, I could only imagine. I could only imagine.
Exactly. And I mean, and what you're saying is absolutely critical. As we start to wrap up, what you're saying is critical is because that people have to realize that there's more to this than just pressing buttons and pressing pads and keys. You're dealing with people, right? So one of the ladies that I interviewed, Celeste, has a degree in conflict management. I was like, wait a minute. They offer degrees in conflict?
That's
like,
crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
She said, yeah, because it helps me when I am consulting with other people how to deal with conflict. Because conflict is going to be there. You and you are going to disagree on some things. And so now how do we resolve this conflict?
Yep.
How do I give feedback to an artist that may have that ego, may see it this way, but I have to give them feedback effectively so that we can move the song along in the direction that it needs to be. Like these are skill sets that people have to learn, but we don't teach them in the music industry. I mean, we will.
And it's like,
I got some stuff coming.
Yeah, even with the producer thing, it's like, okay, if you think you want to be a producer, but you're not a people person, maybe you really need to be a mix engineer. You sit in the room by yourself, you edit the audio the way you want to, but that might be the path that's more catered to you. Like you said, you like to talk. So being in front of the mic doing a podcast, it's like, all right, this is easy.
It's easy.
It has to, like, I feel like the thing that you do has to, like, come easy in a sense.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know the music, but I've always been a people person, so I knew, like, just working the room, that wasn't going to be a challenge. I just need to get more educated on this part of it.
All right. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, y'all make sure y'all take all of that advice.
Please.
Heed it. Find out your path. Find out what works for you, where you're comfortable, where your natural gifts and talents are.
And I promise if you do, it'll be a lot easier and things will just flow organically, bro. You won't even find yourself trying to force the issue or force your way into a room.
Facts. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in to
My
another
guy.
interview episode of the Indie Unplugged with my guy Darius 3D Jenkins.
I appreciate the love, hospitality, all that
Appreciate it.
good
Appreciate
stuff.
it, my guy. Yes, sir. Glad we're finally able to sit down and make it happen.
Long time coming, bro.
Yep, long time coming. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Peace.
We out.